Okay, so we're going to get the show started here. I have a couple of housekeeping duties here. Making sure everybody can see us and hear us. And I want to see if everybody got a chance to get all the notes. So if you didn't get the notes, send me a message in the chat and I can send them to you. We also sent a book, a crisis book that Eric had. If you want to get that as well, I can send that to you because I'm going to be in charge of the
You're in charge.
Technology. Eric's just in charge of talking and giving his content. So I'm
probably how we should do that.
I'm Ed McMahon here today. So, and then if you have questions, please put your questions in the chat as well. And we'll
have a Q&A at the end as well.
We'll have a Q&A at the end, but if something comes up, we'll see if we can get your question answered as well. So we're going to go about an hour or so. Hopefully you can stay. If not, we're going to do a recording of the webinar. We're recording it right now. So if you're watching
Can't
now,
stay, just let us know. We'll send you. You can watch the rest.
Yeah. So that shouldn't be a problem. So some of the people here have seen some of this material before. So if you have any questions about it the first time and the second time, let us know. And hopefully you'll get something out of it the second time as well, because we think the material is very good.
Yeah, and it'll change a little bit from last time as well.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it'll be different every time. I've got a sneeze button here that I'll be drinking. And if anybody, Eric has one too. He sometimes uses it.
Yeah.
We've been trying to teach him during this virus crisis.
Not to cough.
Yeah, not to cough. So anyway,
I used it just now.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's get moving.
So we'll get going. A little bit of background. Eric and I had a blue collar service business for 12 years. Before that, we went to college in New Hampshire together. Eric's from Maine. I'm from New Jersey. And I said to Eric this last week, we have a business morning tech meeting right now as well. I'm kind of jumping around. But essentially what I'm saying is I told Eric a couple weeks ago, I said, listen, man, people are struggling with this. And you got to figure out what's going on. We've had all these experts on the air. We had Howard. We had Josh Zolan, who's here as well. We had Wood and Boyles and Dan as well. All kinds of people that are experts in their field. And I said, Eric, put all this stuff under one umbrella to help everybody tonight. And he pretty much did it. He stayed up all night and he wrote this really cool book. It's not a gigantic book.
It's just a little ebook.
Ebook. And then people were very pleased with it. So we put it together to a presentation, which we're presenting to you today. And I'm going to hand it over to Eric. He's ready to roll. You can see the picture of the two of us. We look so good. We have faces made for radio.
We do.
So
what happened to your hair?
I don't know, dude. There'll be pictures coming up when I had hair.
Larry used to have amazing hair, everyone.
Amazing hair. I was an Adonis, believe it or not.
You were. All right. Well, let's get it off of Larry's hair and on to more important stuff.
Yes.
So, yeah, Larry and I are concerned about everybody in the blue collar world and what's going on. Everybody's being hit across the country, but we started as kind of the lockdown began. We started doing a daily podcast, kind of short one, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes it would go 30. And we had a lot of experts on. And the questions were always, what can everybody do right now to try to figure this out? And we're not saying we have answers, but what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the key points that pretty much every expert was talking about and kind of drill down on the key elements. And I came up with that crisis ebook. I don't know if anybody here has read it yet, but basically crisis is just standing for certain things that you have to drill down on, and we'll get into that a little bit. But right now, we're in an unprecedented scenario, where our businesses are kind of shut down and locked down. And yeah, some of us here have essential businesses, but it doesn't mean that we're going full tilt. So we need to come up with strategies and ways of doing business that are unfamiliar to all of us, right? We have a society on lockdown. And even as we start to open up, there's a lot of talk. I've been reading a lot of articles just this morning about how we're going to reopen the country and reopen for business. And that has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about today as well, because people are going to be scared. They're going to be more fearful of us coming to their homes and businesses. So that's going to change how we operate a little bit. So I want to get into that a little bit as well.
A lot of it. I mean, connecting with people, I think latest, just people don't get out. So if you're going to their home doing services for them, they're going to be dying to have some type of conversation one-on-one with people, even if you're 6 feet away. Families aren't even going to homes.
As long as they feel safe, and that's going to be the big issue. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit at the end. So there's the ebook. If anybody doesn't have it, Larry, just reach out to Larry or throw it in the chat. We can send it to you. It's about, I think it's 22 pages, and it's just kind of outlining in more depth the things that we're going to talk about today. Okay. So crisis, what does it stand for? It stands for communicate, be realistic, innovate, create stability, income, and safety. Those were the key tenets that basically every expert touched upon at some point during all these podcasts that we've been doing for the last 6 weeks or so. So what we wanted to do is kind of go through what each of those things means. I know Larry has a workbook that you can jot down notes. If somebody doesn't have that, let him know. He can shoot it over to you real quick. But let's get into it in the essence of time. So the first thing we talked about, every expert was talking about, you've got to communicate. But you're saying, well, who do I communicate with? Well, let's start with your team. Wood's on here. I don't know, Larry, I can't see the list of who's on, but Wood
he is.
From Blue Collar Talent Scouts were on. And they were talking about, how important it is for companies to really be communicating with their team members now. I know we have Josh Zolan on here too. Josh said the exact same thing. You've got to sit them down and let them know where you guys are at. You can't leave your team in the dark, even in the hardest times. That's when they need that leadership even more. So, it might be giving them a text every morning and every afternoon, like, hey, this is where we're at today. And in the afternoon, maybe there's no change. Hey guys, no change. This is what's still going on. And then setting a vision for, this is how our company's going to deal with it. It might not always be the best news. We understand that. But, just being real with people and being authentic goes a very long way. So you've got to communicate with your team. And, a lot of small business entrepreneurs like to communicate with their team through their action and what they do. But now's the time where you're going to have to change that a little bit and communicate with them about on a more personal and emotional level.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable in some ways, but it's going to go a lot further with your team.
Exactly. So make sure you're communicating with your team. We had Al Levy, 7 Power Contractor, on, and Al was talking about the importance of communicating with your creditors. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about a lot of small businesses that stimulus money is not trickling down to them, unfortunately, which is a travesty. Don't get me going on that. But, if you have people that you owe money to, you need to be talking to them early in the game before you're having that thing where it's like, yeah, I can't pay you this month. Larry and I just know this. We always had a large accounts receivable in our restoration business. The people or the companies that were continuously keeping us in the loop, even if they couldn't pay, we were much more willing to work with them.
Work with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Than the ones who just disappear. So don't be
easier
the guy that disappears.
Yeah, you got to communicate on both ways. And same thing when you're going to get to with people that owe you business, owe you money, because it's tight with everybody.
Yeah.
At this point in time, you just have to communicate and be, do your best.
Yeah. So you definitely want to be on the phone with your creditors, even if you think there may be a problem, but maybe in the end it won't be, but keeping them in the loop early makes you look a lot better than in the end. And you want to keep good relationships with these companies as well. Communicate with your vendors. We had a John Akoyan on from Rooter Hero, and John runs a couple hundred truck plumbing company in Southern California and out in Phoenix as well. And John was talking about how in 2008, when things got really slow and everybody was scrambling for work, one of the first things John's company did was they started really communicating with their vendors, because look, those vendors rely on companies like John's or yours, you know, because we're buying stuff from them. They get money from us. So, you know, you want to be in good graces with these vendors, because, you know, they may get people to call and say, hey, we have work, who should we use? You want that vendor saying your company's name. I mean, Larry and I did that. Our local vendor pretty much always gave us flood work because we marketed to that vendor just like we marketed to referral sources and clients.
Okay? We got Peter's on the line, Peter Lyons, who we work with all the time.
Yeah.
And we used to share business back and forth. He mostly marketed to us, but he was a great resource and a great friend.
Exactly.
When something happened, he was one of our first go-to guys, and he still is.
Well, and Peter, for me, Peter would give me the pulse of what was going on in the industry, because he was seeing other companies like ours. So if we were slow, I'd call Pete and say, is it just us that's slow, or is everybody slow?
Yeah.
And then once I'd get that answer, then you and I could make decisions on what we needed to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Peter was a huge resource, and it's just a relationship. I mean, he's been on the podcast, he's here right now, and there's value in what he offers to everybody. So you create those
stay with your vendors.
Yep.
Yeah. Your clients. We had Howard Partridge on. We had Tony Miklashevsky on from Boston. They were, and Joe Kowalski from Service Monster. You know, those are all guys that we're friends with in mostly the cleaning and restoration world. They all said the same thing, that the phone goes both ways. If you aren't getting inbound calls, you should be making outbound calls. You know, even if it's just checking in on them. You know, it doesn't have to be a sales call. It probably shouldn't be a sales call. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but you've got to keep especially your best clients, you need to stay in touch with them and make sure that they know that you're open even. They might not know, and you could be. And then lastly, and I'm going to defer to Larry on this, is your referral sources. You know, that was Larry's job at our company, and Larry, you did a great job. So, and you're still doing this. What are you doing with referral sources through this right now?
It was just like what Bardwell said when we were talking to Jim Bardwell on the podcast. We're just staying in touch with people, texting people, hey, we're going to get through this. It's all good. How's business going? What can I do? What can I do? Who can I help connect you with? And not even doing anything more than just saying, hey, we got this. That was one of Jim's thing. Jim was
texting referral sources going, hey, you got this, man.
Yep.
And that's all he'd say. But, you know, that can brighten somebody's day on a bad day.
Yeah. And we've all been there. We've had not bad days. We had bad hours, bad minutes, just bad things happen. And then that can just, if that turns you around with your referral sources, that's valuable.
Yeah. Well, and as, you know, maybe work tightens up, those referral sources are going to become more and more important to have as well. Exactly. So you want to make sure that, because now all of a sudden, a lot of your competitors that weren't going after those referral sources are going to be going after those referral sources maybe harder than before. You want to make sure that you stay top, you know, center of mind for these guys.
Yeah. A lot of guys are just laying down, they're panicking, and they're just kind of stuck. Don't be stuck.
Yeah. Now's the time to double down. We'll talk about that a little bit too. Okay. So that's communicate. So the point is that you've got to figure out who you need to communicate with and then take action. Now is the time for taking action. Nobody can sit down and just wait this out. You know, that does not work. Larry and I, through 2008, we grew our business through the Great Recession because we doubled down on communicating with people. All right. Second thing is to be realistic. I mean, it's great to be optimistic. We all love to be optimistic, but John Maxwell talks about in his book, Leadership Gold, that a leader's job is to define reality. And, you know, nobody's going to follow you if you're just being optimistic all the time, or pessimistic too, but they're not going to follow you in any real and authentic way if you can't sit down and say, okay, everybody, this is part of the communicating with your team, right? Okay, everybody, this is what's going on. This is where we're at. This is our plan of action. And this is how we see things going over the next month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Josh, who's on, he talked to us in the podcast about exactly doing that. As soon as this started going down, he had a big team meeting, and that impressed me because not enough companies are doing that right now. So kudos to Josh, but Josh was defining reality for these people. Okay. And then that kind of leads us to the Stockdale paradox, which actually, I've heard about for many years, but it's really becoming a thing. People are talking about it because Admiral Jim Stockdale was the highest ranking officer at the Hanoi Hilton, the hostage place in Vietnam, the Vietnam War, where John McCain was there as well. And, he has been interviewed about being that leadership role there. And, I think he endured 7 years of torture and, capture. And he said, he was asked, well, who didn't make it home? What type of, who didn't make it out of there? And he said, oh, that's easy. The optimists.
Yeah, I would have been dead.
You would have been dead in 2 weeks. I think I would have made it. So, and his point was that the optimists would say, oh, we'll be out of here by Thanksgiving, or we'll be done by Christmas. And then Thanksgiving would come and go, and Christmas would come and go, and it would continue to be the same situation. And then they would lose faith, and then they'd give up, and they wouldn't make it. And he said that the realists were the ones who made it out, because they would say to themselves and to the other guys, hey, I don't know when this is going to end, but I know when it ends. If we just persevere, we're going to be stronger for it in the long run. Yep. And Admiral Stockdale, all the way up to his death, had talked about how those hard moments he wouldn't trade for anything because they made him a better person. So us as leaders, no matter what happens to our business, even if it doesn't make it, this is our chance to become better in some way. So, we need to be realistic with our team and with our vendors and with our referral source, with everybody. Okay. Step 3, innovate. This is a big deal for everybody right now. In the cleaning and restoration industry, especially, we're seeing a lot of guys trying to pivot, which is the big buzzword, pivot into some sort of COVID-19 cleaning, which is something that there's going to be a huge need for going forward. We need to create new streams of income. You've got to be able to figure out what it is that's similar to what you do that may need to be done right now. And I get it. It's easier said than done. It's not easy to pivot. And some of you who are listening may be in non-essential services and could be sitting on the bench going, that doesn't apply to me yet. But, the economy will open. And if you can just hang on, you've got to make sure that you're getting your share of the work, the type of work that's going to come down. So you have to ask yourself, sit down with a piece of paper. What other offerings could I do that my guys could be kind of fairly easily and quickly trained to do something else that is needed right now? Find services that are aligned with the skill set of your company. A perfect example of that was Larry and I in 2008. We're doing air duct cleaning and carpet cleaning, and nobody was doing much of that work, and we needed to survive. We were a very new company. So what we started doing is we started doing trash outs. Lots of houses in the Inland Empire area where we were being foreclosed upon. Somebody needed to move all the stuff out of them and rake the lawn. And look, it was dirty, ugly work. But Larry and I would go around from real estate office to real estate office offering our services for trash outs because it was money. And it was somewhat aligned with the skill set that we had. And that kept us alive. And then we also started doing janitorial at night at hair salons.
Horrible.
If you have a janitorial company, don't do hair salons because there's hair everywhere.
Everywhere.
But, so what Larry and I would do was the jobs would start at 10 at night and go to like 2 or 3 in the morning. So we would go clean hair salons all night long because it was steady income. And then we'd sleep a couple hours. And then if we didn't have carpet cleaning or trash out, we'd market. We did that for 2 years, riding out the economy, just staying alive,
And then we
you
quit the
know,
janitorial gig, and that was spectacular.
quitting the janitorial gig, uh, other than my wedding day and my 2 children being born, might be the greatest day of my life. But you know, and then during the daytime, Larry and I were doing guerrilla marketing. We would literally, he'd take one side of the street, I'd take the other, and we'd go start knocking doors. And you know, I know you can't do that right now, but you've got to find a way to blog posts, social media. You've got to get your name out.
So right now we were the IRCRC is offering a class on the cleaning.
Yes.
So that's an opportunity for many cleaners that we know are on this call right now.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity there.
I know Nate Seward in Anaheim at Academy of Textiles and Flooring is offering a certification program. I don't know if that's the IICRC one or not, but he's really
and it's
good.
an online. All the classes are going to be online anyway. So wherever you are in the United States, if you want to know anything about that, please let us know. But that's the pivot where it's not. It's like going from carpet cleaning to tile cleaning, or from water damage to mold cleanup. It's very similar.
Yeah, you just, but the big thing is, and we got to make this point, and we'll hit this again at the end, but you've got to make sure that you guys know what you're doing in your lane so that nobody gets hurt or worse. So anyway, but you've got to figure out what it is that you can do that somebody will need right now. And that's not always super easy. All right, step 4, and this kind of goes with the reality one, is that your team really needs stability in an unstable world. And look, you're probably feeling as an owner like, I don't have any stability either. Regardless of how you're feeling, you've got to be able to set a vision for your guys and gals that, you know, you are a beacon of stability in all of this mess, because people don't follow unstable leaders. They just won't. You know, when a guy or a lady as a leader comes in and they're high-fiving and hugging everybody on day 1, and then day 2 they're breathing fire and yelling at everybody, that's unstable. Nobody's going to follow that. Well, the same goes for now. If one day you come in and you're optimistic and you're saying, we're going to do this and that, and we're going to beat this, and the next day you're feeling down and you come in all sad, your team knows that. You know, John Maxwell talks about words, tone, and body language. And the reason I bring up John Maxwell so much is I'm a John Maxwell certified coach and I love his books, but words only account for 7% of your believability. So that means 93% of your believability is in your tone and your body language. So if you believe one thing and you're saying something else to your team, they can read through that.
See right through it.
They see right through it. That's the realism part. You know, you have to be, and it's a fine line. It's really difficult, but you have to be positive while still giving some realism to these
And that's
guys.
what's going to put, you know, many people out of their comfort zone, but you still have to get out of your comfort zone as a leader at some level. If you're not used to doing this on a regular basis, you need to step up or do your best to try and step up, and any effort will be noticed.
Right. And then we get to Zig's quote. We had Tom Ziegler on, who is doing a webinar called Stronger. I think he has an ebook of the same name. So Larry, maybe you could, if anybody wants it, we could at least send them Tom's info. And he did do a Stronger whole thing on our podcast as well.
Yeah.
But Zig said, expect the best, prepare for the worst, and capitalize on what comes. And no words are truer for today than those. Like, that's exactly what we're talking about. You know, you have to expect the best. We have to, kind of like Admiral Stockdale said, you have to have the belief that this will be over at some point and that we'll get through it, right? But you have to prepare for the worst. That's talking to the creditors. That's talking to your referral sources. That's talking to your team. You have to take action. I'm hearing from even a lot of coaching clients of mine, they're just kind of giving up. And I tell them the same thing every day. Just double down, do more. Even, you know, I grew up an athlete, and being an athlete, the process is always more important than the result. So all those days of practice are always more important than the day of the game, because the practice is what leads you to whether you're going to do well in the game or not. And Larry and I did that in 2008, 9, and 10. I mean, Larry, how many days did we just go knock on doors and make phone calls? You know, I mean, we were practicing by marketing every day. And I would get very frustrated and say, Larry, this isn't working. Nobody's calling us. You know, we're just beating our heads against the wall. And Larry's point to me was, just keep going. More phone calls.
These relationships are going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah. More phone calls, more chamber meetings, more blog posts, more emails, whatever. And you know what? As the economy started to lift, we started to really rise, while other companies who kind of sat paralyzed during that period were either out of business or we blew past them. So my point to you is, when it says prepare for the worst, that means do the work every day, even the hard stuff. Okay. And then capitalize on what comes. You know, if you do that work, you will get a positive outcome, generally speaking. You know, look, there are going to be people through this whole thing, we know this, that will not have a positive outcome. But if nothing else, at the end of the day, if you've done every single thing that you can to get better, it still makes you feel better than sitting around worrying.
Yep.
Right.
Just being stuck. You don't want to be stuck. I mean,
we've
been into this about a month or so now. You just got to keep being focused.
It's hard to do. I mean, Larry and I have a business that we're trying to grow just like everybody else, and we have the same emotions, you know. So anyway, check out Tom Ziglar's Stronger, really powerful stuff. Okay, step 5, income. You know, there's essential versus non-essential services. I think most of the people on here are probably in essential services, which is a good thing. I'm talking to a lot of my clients, our clients, and, you know, yes, they're working. Yes, they're going, but they're generally going at, 40 to 60% of what their normal is. So look, that gives its challenges. So what do? You know, Josh is on here, I believe still. You know, Josh doubled down on marketing. He was telling us in the podcast, I just hired a marketing guy. This is my chance to shine. You know, this is an opportunity. Sean Van Dyke was on. He said the exact same thing. He said, if I was going to spend money on 2 things right now, that would be marketing and finding my next great employees, you know. And as this thing lifts, the people that are being strategic and doubling down on getting new work are going to be the ones who are getting this work. So, you know, Larry and I are living proof that if you double down on marketing when things are tough, you'll still grow.
Yeah, you'll grow, if not right then, just from the efforts, but it'll exponentially accelerate when things get back to normal.
Yeah.
And that's what you're putting your value in.
Yeah. The phone works both ways. You know, I know Howard Partridge said this. I believe Tersh Blissett said the same thing, that, you know, if you aren't as busy, then you should be making those outbound calls, just checking on people. Derek and Katie with Spot On Solutions were talking about how just call them and ask them if they're okay. I mean, Larry was doing this and people were being skeptical. They thought he was giving them a sales call.
I'm like, no, I'm not trying to sell you. I just want to say hello, see how you're doing.
Yeah. So you have to call with their your best intentions for their health and safety. And they're going to remember that, and they will reward you, maybe not that day with work, because maybe they're not ready to have somebody come in their home. But as this lifts, they will reward you down the line. And, you know, like Tanya at Jansen's in Glendale, you know, they're making those outbound calls. And, you know, people are saying, I don't want you to come yet, but when the lockdown starts to go, we want work. So she's been making a big, long waiting list. First come, first serve.
She's calling people, and they're like, make us be the first ones to see us. Yep. When you open up, we want to be in our house first.
Exactly.
So she's all ready to go.
Yeah. And then we had Dennis Heyman from Zoom Drain in Seattle. And I mean, Dennis was at ground zero when it kind of hit the shores of the US. And, you know, I was talking to him, and we were supposed to have a meeting, and he texted me and said, hey, I can't do the meeting today. We're down 80% in a week. And, you know, this is a guy who's running a couple of plumbing companies, and all of a sudden, you know, somebody turned the faucet off. Now, granted, that's coming back, but his big thing to us, which Larry and I found really interesting, was you got to make sure that your people who go out in the field have good sales skills, because selling in abundant times is easy. Anybody can do that. Selling in non-abundant times is really, really difficult. And Larry and I cut our teeth learning how to sell in the home in 2008, 2009, 2010, when every sales call counts. Every single upsell counts. When times are good, you don't sweat those jobs so much. But when, things are tighter, so you have to make sure, however you want to do it, that your technicians or your estimators know how to sell when things aren't so easy, because there's going to be fewer calls to all the companies. So when you do get the opportunity for an estimate or a bid, you want to make sure that your guys are able to close that deal.
Yeah, each one of those leads is worth so much more money at that point.
Yeah.
And that's where you got okay, I got to focus. This lead, instead of costing me $50 per lead, is $200 per lead. So I've got to get this one.
Exactly. And then lastly, creative payment options. I mean, Larry and I, we did that through the Great Recession as well. I mean, we weren't using a bank or a third party. We were just floating that stuff ourselves, to be honest. But, if the phone wasn't ringing off the hook and we felt that person was honest, we would do payments. I mean, we might break it into
worked 95% of the time. It was really
look,
good.
You're going to have a couple people who don't pay. But, it kept our guys going. It kept some cash coming in. And generally speaking, most people paid. So the other creative payment options, Joe Kowalski was saying, sell gift certificates. So maybe people are trying to support small businesses. Up here in Utah, where I'm at right now, there's only basically one restaurant in my valley, and everybody's worried that this guy's going to go under. So everybody's been going there, and ordering takeout just to try to make sure that as this goes, the small business owner can stay in business. It benefits our whole community. Look, they feel the same way about your people around you, feel the same way about your small business as well. They want to help you keep going. So try to sell gift certificates. Howard Partridge talked about kind of pay now, play later, which is kind of similar to a gift certificate, where maybe they pay, 20% less or 15% less for a service call, but they take it in July or August opposed to now, but they pay now. And for that, they get a break. So you got to figure out what works for your company, but those are some things that could help as well. And lastly, and I think this is a big deal, especially as we start to reopen. Everybody's worried about reopenings is going to spike again, issues again. So safety is a huge, huge deal. The first person we have to consider is the client. The client is nervous, generally speaking, about having people come to their home and work. They want the work done, but they don't want to get sick, especially elderly people like Tanya was on. Almost her entire market are elderly people who are quite wealthy. The money isn't so much the issue for them, but they don't want technicians coming in homes because most of them are over 60. And so we have to be doing what we can to try to protect them. So what is that? Booties, PPE, masks, nitrile gloves, saying you'll wipe everything down, having the customer go to a different portion of the house while you're working. There's
just
ways.
having systems that you guys understand to stay away from the people, the credit card transactions, all that over the phone, etc.
Yeah,
there's so many things.
Tony Miklashevsky in Boston, he has a carpet cleaning company. He was telling us that a friend of ours, John Browning, who I believe it's Trifocus Consulting in Nashville, has a basically COVID-19 protocol for sale for, I don't know, roughly $100 or something. He bought that, and he's not only giving, and John's supposed to come on the podcast fairly soon, but he's not only giving it to his guys, but he's sending it to the clients. This is the protocol that we're using. Like, that might be the best $100 you've ever spent.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you should go to John, but you should find that somewhere so that you have a system, like Larry said, and that the customer knows what your system is.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony's guys went as far as shaving their beards off. They all agreed to shave all facial
not you,
hair.
Huh?
Well, I'm not in the field. I would if I was in the field, because the thing is that PPE or masks don't work as well with facial hair. So Tony rounded up his guys and said, guys, I know Tony had a beard the whole time we've ever known him. Next thing you know, he comes on the podcast, he's clean shaven. That's one of the protocols in their COVID-19 to make the customer feel safer. Okay. And then conversely from that, you've got to make sure your team feels good. You know, you're going to have some guys that are like, yeah, you know, I'm invincible. I'm young. It's never going to get me. Excuse me.
Off button. Yep. So yeah, helping your team is a big deal, making them feel comfortable. Because if they're not comfortable going to the home, that's going to be a big problem. So you have to get them all the proper gear that you can. I mean, you're telling the protocols to the client. You got to explain your protocols to the team so that they can follow through with that protocol when they get to the clients. And that's a big deal. I mean, even if, I don't know if you've been to the supermarket, they have shields between the cashier and the customer as you're going through the line. Whatever you can think of that's a little bit extra, it's your opportunity to shine and impress your team and the clients with those particular protocols for safety with the personal protection gear.
Absolutely.
You're right there?
Yeah, sorry, I have horrible it's seasonal allergies. Everybody thinks every time I cough, I have the coronavirus, which I don't think I do.
Yep.
So hopefully not. Did you just finish PPE? I'm sorry, I had to.
Yeah, I was just talking about the protocols that the team needs to know as well as the client, just so everybody's on the same page. Yeah. And it's an opportunity to market and make a big difference to the clients. Which is
and then the next thing is really important, and this is harder to do. And it was actually Wood and Dan who brought this up, that you've got to give your technicians more latitude than they probably normally have, because as they show up at home, if they're not feeling that it's good, if somebody looks sick, is coughing, all this, they have to feel safe in their own job. They're going to have the latitude to make the call that we probably shouldn't be here. This is probably not good for us. And look, that's really hard. Larry, you would have lost your mind, especially when we were slow, if a technician had come back and said, it was bad there. I told them no, and I had to leave.
Go back there and get the job again. Tell them how it is.
Well, no, we wouldn't have said that. You would have fought me on it, but we wouldn't have, the thing
it's hard. It's very hard. I mean,
as hard as it is to get that job, it's not more important than somebody's health.
Yes, absolutely. No, I agree.
Look, this is hard for all of us, but if that technician really believes that they're in danger, I think they need to have the latitude to bail.
Yeah, well, and that's a leadership quality that is very
well, and it also from the top down needs to be spoken about. That we understand. We do not want you to get sick. If you really feel that you're in true danger, you have the ability to go or call the office, and then that would be a phone call that you or I might make to the client and say, you know what, my guys don't feel comfortable. We need to go. And those are hard conversations. I'm not making light of that.
No, absolutely. No,
and then obviously the CDC and the World Health Organization and whatever industry guidelines that you have, make sure you're following those, because safety, is a big deal to your team. Mark Cuban was recently quoted saying how companies treat workers during the pandemic could define their brand for decades. Now, he was probably talking about, big companies like UPS and Amazon, but that filters down to all of us in our small businesses that, if word gets around your town that you are kind of forcing your team into situations where they felt uncomfortable or at risk, that's going to haunt you for a long time. And there's no easy answer to that.
Well, you were coaching that company where the reputation in town for that company, nobody wanted to work for the company, and that hurt them.
Yeah. I mean, I've had clients in the past who didn't treat their team as well as they probably should have. And what happened is over time, nobody wanted to work at that company. People who had never worked at that company had heard, oh, don't go work for XYZ company because it's not a good work environment, So make sure you're treating your people well. And look, it's a fine line. We get it. We totally understand that. So anyway, how can we help? You know, Larry and I, we do this podcast. We try to get as much free information out there as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, we also have a business to run as well. So we have a couple things. They're very inexpensive, but we think could help, especially during what's going on right now with your technicians. So the first thing is we have a system of training technicians called morningtechmeeting.com. I don't know how many of the people on are members already, but basically it's me doing a Blackboard lesson, kind of like you see here, every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, training technicians on the soft skills of creating an amazing service experience. And look, am I pitching my product right now? Yes, but this will never be more important than it is right now.
At this point right now.
When people are feeling nervous about having us come to their home, it is all the more important for our technicians to be really good at dealing, communicating, showing empathy, doing all the right things that are not technical to make sure that that customer experience is good for them. Because if you get word around town that your guys are doing such a great job right now through these hard times, that will carry a lot of weight for a long time. Okay, so what is it? It's a Blackboard meeting every day. This video is about 6 or 8 minutes. Most videos are 6 to 8 minutes. Our clients play them either before the day starts, or a lot of times the technicians will have it on their phone via email.
And that's what we've been doing a lot, is just emailing the lessons to the technicians.
And then the guys will just watch them out in the field on their breaks or whatever.
Yeah. And they communicate with them in a different type of meeting. It's not as typical.
I'm going to play, Larry, a couple minutes. I'm not going to play 6 minutes. I'll play like a minute or so just to give everybody a sense of what's going on.
Great.
Hey guys, Eric with morningtechmeeting.com. Today, I want to talk about 2 technicians. Chuck in a truck or Paul the Pro. And that's what we used to call it at our company. You know, when we'd look at competitors, we'd say, does that guy look like Chuck in a truck? So let's compare and contrast what Chuck in a truck versus Paul the Pro would look like out in the field, okay? First thing, workday starts at 7 a.m. for a lot of us. Chuck in a truck, he rolls in late every day. Every single day he's late. Every single day the boss is wondering if he's going to even show. Every single day he's running in like we all don't know he's late already. We're trying to sneak in the back of the warehouse or whatever, right? Paul the Pro, 15 minutes early, having his cup of coffee, slowly easing his or her way into the day, okay? They're getting ready to work. I had a guy that's from the South that I used to work for, and he'd say, that's when you're fixing to go to work. The fixing part is when you're preparing. Okay? So be on time. Be early. Early is on time. Chuck in a truck rolls in hungover. He partied last night. He parties every night. Every single night. Every single morning he comes in and his eyes are bloodshot and he's yawning. And he feels horrible, and he spends 30 minutes in the bathroom before he gets in his van to roll out because he's not feeling good. And that's his life. How good a job can you do in the field serving your customers and just being a professional if that's how you behave? Paul the Pro is well rested. Okay, so you guys get an idea of what that's like. And we cover all kinds of things. We cover how to go ring the doorbell, where to park your van, looking a client in the eye, doing property protection, how to upsell. We have a sales training day every Thursday. We do DISC training for personality types. We do that every Wednesday. We do some personal development. These are the skills that allowed Larry and I to build up our cleaning and restoration business big enough to sell it, because we were knocking down 5-star reviews. We were getting repeats. We were getting referrals. We were the go-to company in our area for service. And look, we're all in the people business, right, Larry?
Yep. And these skills, once these guys got these skills down, because we went over them with them over and over and over, and our clients, it builds up their confidence. They become better technicians. So you have this crisis right now. They're more capable. They're more confident. They are able to follow the protocols that are safe for, for different people in the environment. So they're better at what they do.
Yeah. Well, and then there's another benefit to these. And you got to realize these are short meetings. They're quick. They're 6 to 8 minutes a day for each tech. It doesn't have to be some long drawn out thing. But what's one of the most expensive things we have, and especially now when we want to keep the good people that we have, you want to have employees that are happy, that feel cared for, kind of like Mark Cuban was talking about. So here's Ashley.
Yeah.
She worked for us for several years. Ashley came from a small business where she was not treated very well. And we really wanted Ashley to come work for us, but she was very apprehensive because she thought all small business owners treated their people poorly. She had one business to compare it to, and reluctantly joined Larry and I after several meetings. So here's what she has to say about how the meetings affected her and our team.
Hi, my name is Ashley Gonzalez, and I actually work for Shamrock. I'm in the sales and marketing department. Every morning, Eric has his meetings, and it's really helped me personally and at work. I'm actually happy to come to work. I enjoy my job, and I enjoy the fact that Eric actually is involved and he's worried about me as a whole, not just the job that I'm doing. He knows that if I'm happy at home, I'm going to be happy at work, and they actually care about us. And you don't find that very often in companies, and especially companies that I've worked for before. They've taught me how to be out of my comfort zone, and right now I'm out of my comfort zone, but I'm doing this because I like my job, I enjoy it, I come to work every day, and I do my best, and I know that they actually care about me. So I would definitely recommend the lessons every morning, because your employees actually, they feel that you care about them. And if they feel that you care about them, they're going to put more effort into what they do every day.
Kind words from Ashley.
There you go. Bada bing. Well, that's the big thing.
Whoops, sorry.
That's the thing. You get, you invest in your guys by investing in meetings with them every day, and you get a coach for them, and all of a sudden their attitude and the way they do things changes, and it's really cool.
With morningtechmedia.com, you let me do it. You don't have to do it. And another thing that we hear from a lot of our clients is that I will probably say in the meetings a lot of the same stuff that everybody else says to their team, but because I'm a third party, they tend to listen to me more than the owner. Right. Which the same happened to me with Shamrock. So when we had a coach, so that's, I think, just human nature.
Yeah.
Also, we have another system at Shamrock, our cleaning and restoration company. We had in-house masterminds using my John Maxwell training. And what I have done is I've adapted the training that we did in-house into video training for the book Leadership Gold. Leadership Gold, I think, excuse me, is probably John Maxwell's best book suited for service businesses. John Maxwell has written like 75 leadership books. This is definitely not one of the more popular ones, but of all those books, this one just really gives practical advice for not only owners and managers, but technicians as well. It's very easy to understand. So what I've done is I took the 26 chapters and broke it into 12 video lessons. It's about a half hour, 40 minutes per lesson. But I've adapted it specifically for mainly cleaning and restoration businesses, but it also carries over to plumbing, electrical, anything where you're sending somebody to a home, field service. Every person that's involved gets a free workbook to go through the lessons with me. And what we really used it for was converting technicians into field supervisors, lead techs, managers, because what we found was just because you have a good technician and you feel like you need to move them up or that they could be good, the same skills for being a technician are not the same skills for being a leader or a manager.
Definitely.
So we put them through these in-house mastermind groups to find out, if they had that. A lot of times by the end of it, they'd say, you know what, I don't want to be a lead. This is not me. This isn't a good fit for me. And we'd say, great. And they'd go back to being a happy technician. And then we had other people who we didn't really think had leadership skills and found out they actually really did. So this is perfect for owners and managers meetings, and also for anybody that you want to push kind of up the chain to see if, you know, you can train them to lead others. Because just because you're a good tech doesn't mean you can lead 5 guys out in the field. Totally different skill sets. So, and I teach that in very much language that your technicians would understand, right? Larry, you want to speak to that a little bit, because you saw me do it like straight out of the book and that didn't work.
Yeah, well, when we started doing this, that's what you were doing. We come back from the Howard Partridge conference, and we were teaching them the stuff that got taught to us, and it didn't translate to them necessarily. And then you tweaked it after you got your John Maxwell certification, tweaked it towards the technicians, and all of a sudden it resonated with them. That's when your tech whispering skills started skyrocketing. And I would tell the guys one thing, and they'd look at me like I'm crazy. And then Eric would walk up and say, and I know it was the same exact thing. The same words came out of his mouth.
That is not true.
But they got it when Eric said it. And I'd be all frustrated. Can you see it still resonates with me? But
Peter's laughing right now.
Yeah. Nonetheless, they got the information from the Tech Whisperer, and that was cool. So, you know.
So anyway, so that's number 2. So basically, we're doing a deal where, first off, I'm sorry, I think we might have missed a slide, Larry. So I'm just going to do this verbally. Normally, morning tech meeting is $39 a month. Okay. And then we have fees for, if you have 2 to 5 lines, it's, you know, another $5 and whatever. But what we're going to do is do $29 a month, but then we're going to lock that in for life. So no matter if you have 1 guy or 100 guys or 2 people or 200 people, it's just $29. And that will never change. And also what Larry can do is, if you, let's say you had 5 technicians, we can actually send, if you give us an email, we can send those lessons out to each one of them, so that if you don't have a morning meeting together, they can still do the training. And we have a lot of clients that do that as well.
I've been sending those out to them, and they're actually happy. It's working very well for them.
Yeah. So look, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. For $29 a month, you're giving them a lot of training. And I put everything I have into those videos, a lot of experience, a lot of study on my part. Then for the Maxwell, that normal price on that 12 lesson course is $199. Today's special is, if you want to buy it individually, is $119. That's basically $10 a week. So it's pretty darn cheap. But if you bundle it with morning tech meeting subscription, the Maxwell part will just be $89. And then what we'll do is we'll just amortize that over 12 months. So instead of paying $29 a month, you'd pay $36 a month for the first year. And then you'd get both the membership for morning tech meeting and the 12 lesson leadership gold mastermind as well. Did I make that clear, Larry?
I think so. If anybody has any questions, I'm looking at the chat real quick, just in case you weren't.
So anyway, yeah, that's what we're offering. You know, look, our stuff is meant to be inexpensive. We want the most people to do it so that they can have better lives. Larry and I know what it's like to be a struggling entrepreneur with not enough systems and not enough training and all the things that go with that. We figured it out over the years, and now we're trying to offer something that will help everybody do that without having to do as much work as I had to put it all together. That's really what it is. And then anybody that buys anything today is going to get a few bonuses. We have the Blue Collar Nation podcast, which is on iTunes. It comes up every week. Anybody can listen to that. But we also did a Blue Collar Titans series that was not on iTunes. And we have all kinds of people: Chuck Violand, Howard Partridge, Ellen Rohr, Joe Kowalski, John Braun, Ed Cross, Al Levy, Tom Ziegler, Anissa, Josh Zolan, who's with us, was on it as well. Wood and Dan were on it too. So we will send you all 20 of those episodes as well. Or no, 21. I'm sorry, 21 episodes.
We're one of them. We're the best. Well, we are the best one, but one of the best.
Basically, that whole thing, if you listen to all 20 episodes, serves like a master class for running a blue collar service business. I mean, there's so much content there. So I really am proud of what we did there.
Yep.
And then Larry has the Pineapple Man's Guide to Memorable Marketing. So Larry is a referral marketer extraordinaire. His calling card is the fedora and the pineapple.
Fedora the pineapple, exactly.
And everybody knew Larry in Southern California where he went because he delivered pineapples. And Larry has a several video course that we're going to give out as well for free on how to do that kind of door-to-door marketing once things are open and you can do that again. But that we grew our business from referral marketing. So
Yep.
I think that's a great bonus. And then number 3, if somebody doesn't have the crisis book, we'll send that over as well. So anyway, that's it. I didn't want to make some big long pitch. This is more about getting you guys information. And if you decide to do some business with us, great. If not, we just hope you got something out of this today. So Larry, do you want to go back through real quick the pricing quickly?
I'm sending out a link to everybody inside the chat. You can't click on the chat in the Zoom, but if you can cut and paste it, that'd be great. If anybody didn't see it. So it's just $29 per month for the Morning Tech Meeting System. That's one video every day, every single day of the year. And if you want to get the leadership training as well with it, it's $36 a month for the first year. So and then it would go down to $29 after that. But if you just want to get the Leadership Gold course, that's $119. And people have been real happy with the leadership course, and many people are really happy with the Morning Tech Meeting System. Their culture is changing. And right now, that's the biggest thing that you can do. Your team is such a big deal. And that's what we're trying to communicate here. That's
I think the team often gets put last. Like, as a business owner, Larry, and you and I know this, you're worried about your profit margins and your cash flow and your receivables and the technical aspects of the job and all the things that are hugely important. But you and I never really grew, never really got the business we wanted until we trained our staff on these soft skills.
Yeah.
That's
that
when
was a big turning
everything
point.
got better for us and for our clients too. We're hearing that over and over. So let's open it up if there's any questions. I don't want to take too much. We've already taken quite a bit of time, but if anyone has any questions, we'll hang out and answer as many as we can.
Okay, got a question coming in now. When do lessons start? As soon as you start, we have the lessons start every Monday. You can go through Friday. So if you called in midweek, we have a pre-week of lessons for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
And then you can see those.
And you always start on lesson 1 and they build upon each other. So, and then Larry, what time does that email go out every single day?
Goes over 5:00 a.m. I watch it.
So we try to get you guys your emails before your team gets to the office generally. And that way you can go. And that's Monday through Friday all year long.
No, that's good. And then they're asking, is there any particular help for owners? We have some videos for the owners to check in with your team. How are the meetings working? What are you looking for? Are they engaged? So we send out just guiding videos periodically.
Well, and then I do coaching. If you're interested in that, then give us a call.
So if the guys really like your investment is working real well at the Morning Tech Meeting, you can upgrade. Eric does some really good coaching that's made a real big difference with many different people. And that's been great.
So Larry, could they just email me, eric@morningtechmeeting.com if that is of interest to them?
Eric at Morning Tech Meeting comes to both of us. And let me put that in here. I think everybody's been getting our emails.
Okay.
And let me see. Let me put this in here before.
And just to make note, the Leadership Gold training, that in-house mastermind, that's very, even though I make it for technicians, those are lessons that owners need to hear. Those were lessons that you and I always needed to hear. So I think that's good owner training as well.
Okay. And I got another message coming. Does it make a difference how many people we email? No, I have one guy. I set up 12 people to email to 12 technicians.
Yeah, it's fine.
And
so all the same price.
All the same price. We just want to get this out to people because there's value here. It's something that every blue collar service business in the country, and we were having a conversation with one of our clients, a plumber that we have in Riverside down the street, and he was struggling with his vans were a mess and his guys were doing things he wasn't doing because he hasn't been able to supervise them and stay on top of them as much as he always has because everybody's so distant. And I said he was so frustrated, but this is his third business. He knows how it goes, but it was just making him a little bit crazy. So he says, I know we got to start showing them. There's a couple lessons on keeping your truck clean that Eric has.
Well,
and I told him exactly, I emailed them to him, play these with videos, play these lessons for them. And I emailed them to the guys as well. So yeah, that's a big deal. And then they're asking, yes, if there's a library of lessons, there's a library of lessons. When you get the lessons, you can go back and see all the other lessons. So if you're 2 weeks into it,
the longer you're in, the bigger the library gets, right?
Yeah. And if you have certain problems, email us because there's other lessons that are coming along that, could be helpful at the time.
Yeah.
So let us know. And the thing is, we don't give the whole library away at once because it's kind of like you're overwhelmed.
Well, and the lessons build on each other. So don't always want to do that.
Yep. And someone's asking about DISC. You must have done a little bit of research on us. Yes, we do a lot of DISC training. DISC training is a huge part of our business and who we are with our families, with each other, especially with the team.
We ran our entire service company basically using DISC.
Yeah.
Every single person knew what their DISC profile was. Every sale, every interaction was basically based on DISC training that we did every week.
Yep. And that was a huge deal. We learned that at Howard one time. And Eric and I did this test and we looked at each other and we looked at each other's results and he said, oh, I get it.
Yeah. But our relationship got a lot better because of it.
Yeah. You can understand it's not a judging thing, which is, it takes the judgment out of understanding other people's decision-making. Like, why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense at all. But if you look at who the person is and who they are inside and understand the DISC, oh, no wonder you chose that way. Well, I wouldn't. Well, yeah, that's because you have a different profile. And it's easy to learn and use, especially the guys.
Yeah. Best thing we probably ever did.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully that answers your question. Who is that? Mike? Yeah, Mike. Hopefully that answers your question. And who else do we have here? Grayson. We got a couple people that I don't even recognize. I don't know. I think they might have found us on LinkedIn or something like that. So that's
great.
Cool.
Welcome.
We still have a lot of other people here. Send your questions in, please.
And you can also find our stuff if you want to kind of look around. Blue Collar Nation podcast on iTunes.
Yeah.
Morningtechmeeting.com, the website.
And a lot of these things that we're bringing up were on these podcasts.
Yeah. And then you can go to my Facebook page, Eric Sprague, Sprague, and that's where you will get the everyday podcast that we've been doing during the coronavirus pandemic.
Your LinkedIn also.
Or my LinkedIn. And I tweet it every day, Eric Sprague.
You tweet it?
I tweet it.
Are you a tweeter?
Not really, but I tweet that. I want to get it out to as many people because the more people that see these podcasts that we do with guys like Josh and Wood and Tom Ziegler and Howard and everybody else, the more help we're giving for everybody.
You have to start doing TikToks.
I think that's more your speed than mine.
No way, dude. My daughter and girlfriend, the TikToks going, they're pretty cool. So we can be very creative, I think. I don't know if anybody's
you can do your handstands and your unicycle on
on my TikTok. Actually, I've been doing very well. Those are two of my goals that Eric didn't approve of for the year. So I'm still sticking with him. He can kiss my ass.
I didn't like them because they're hard to quantify.
No, it's a matter of holding the handstand and how long I can be on the unicycle. It's been working great.
Good.
It's working well. How about any other questions? We have a couple. They're asking about what types of businesses. So
plumbing, electrical, heating and air conditioning, pest control, security system installation, IT, We have auto body shops that are using it, carpet cleaners, obviously, water damage, mold remediation. Basically, any company that sends technicians into homes or businesses, this would work for.
Yeah. And also the auto body shop with Ricky. But the lessons are, it starts with the in-home behavior, personal development. In-home behavior is Monday. No, personal development's Monday. In-home behavior is Tuesday. Wednesday's disc. And Thursday's upsells.
And then we do a recap and a quiz on Friday.
Yeah. And what Ricky
I'm
was
sorry.
saying, the auto body, the guy that uses it from the auto body, he says the in-home sales just teaches people how to interact with clients. And he's like, it works just as well for us when our guys are, these guys are explaining what's going on.
We even have an architectural company using it because architects are historically more like technicians where they don't love human interaction, but they're very technical. And now, they had to go meet with homeowners. So the owner of the architecture firm now uses Morning Tech Meeting because it's training his architects how to behave when they go into a home. So the skill sets are broad.
Yep.
And I make it that way purposely.
Yep, absolutely. So there's all different types of businesses. Any other questions coming up? I know we're a little bit over an hour, so we didn't want to keep everybody. If you can't stay, we totally understand. And we're going to repost this.
Thank you for everyone who took their time to come. We really appreciate it.
And we're going to repost this. So if you want to rewatch it or share this with somebody, it's going to be a link we're going to send out. It's going to be on YouTube. And you can see that. I'll probably be able to get that out, if not later today, first thing in the morning. And
post it on social too.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be good.
Thanks, everyone.
Anybody wants to sign up, that'd be great as well. And if you have more questions, you can email us directly. Doesn't look like we have any more questions.
Okay, let's wrap it up. You know me. Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
We have a lot of people asking a lot of good questions. It was good. Right on. All right, everybody. We are going to get out of here. You guys have a great day. We appreciate you coming. We'll catch up with you real soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.